Next week, the King Singers bring their own unique and versatile blend of music to BBC2 in a programme which features special guests Robin Ray and the New Zealand opera star Kiri Te Kanawa. The King Singers International, next Sunday at 7:15. In 10 minutes, a film profile of the American composer Roy Harris, whose work is enjoying a revival of interest in the United States. First, the news on 2 with Richard Baker. It's almost 8 minutes past 8.
The French people give their verdict. François Mitterrand will lead them for the next 7 years. That was the firm prediction an hour ago from the usually reliable French television computer, and a short while ago, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing conceded defeat. So, power in France moves to the left with the socialism of François Mitterrand. It was his third attempt at the presidency, and in his campaign he had blamed his opponent for all France's ills. But Mitterrand has before him a period of political uncertainty, a National Assembly which does not support him. Giscard d'Estaing had warned the voters that a Mitterrand victory would lead to ruin, but his message does not seem to have convinced them. His critics said he was too aloof. He acted in the Élysée Palace like an uncrowned king. Well, today, more than 30 million French voters gave their verdict at the polls. They chose to send to the Élysée Palace a leader who will rely on the communists for much of his support. Soon after the polls closed, French television computers predicted the result, 51.7% of the vote for Mitterrand. The margin between the two candidates was bigger than had been expected. In conceding defeat in the last hour, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing sent his best wishes to Mitterrand on his election as president. And in West Berlin, Chancellor Schmidt's Social Democratic Party looks set to suffer big losses in the city's elections. The early results also show, though, that the election is almost certain to end in a stalemate. Large extracts from the alleged telephone conversations between Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer have been published for the first time in the United Kingdom. They appeared today in the Northern edition of the Sunday World, printed in Dublin. About 70,000 copies went to Northern Ireland and 15,000 to Britain, though 2 big distributors were reported to have refused to handle the paper. Buckingham Palace's response to the story: "This is a pointless, futile exercise. We've already said these conversations were bogus."
The Sunday World may not be the biggest seller in Britain, but the editor's decision to publish the tape transcripts only in editions sold in England and Northern Ireland is bound to be a major source of concern. He says they took legal advice before deciding to publish, not out of public interest, but curiosity. He says it's all harmless stuff, though he remains open-minded about whether or not the tapes are authentic. Prince Charles has insisted that the transcripts are fake, and Scotland Yard have begun an inquiry. Copies of Die Aktuelle, the German magazine who bought the tapes, have been banned from this country by the Department of Trade. But tonight a spokesman admitted that the ban didn't include other foreign publications. The Sunday World, though, may have to convince the courts that they haven't breached the injunction granted to the Prince banning publication of confidential information. In London, many copies did get through to the newsstands and were quickly sold out. Others reached Liverpool, Manchester and Birmingham. The Dublin paper takes a strong anti-British stance and would feel under no obligation to observe discreet behaviour with reference to the royal family. But the editor has said that the edition wouldn't have been on British newsstands had the tape extracts been harmful to Prince Charles.
The General Secretary of Britain's biggest public workers' union says the local election results spell the end for Mrs Thatcher's programme for public spending cuts. Alan Fisher of Newpie, who's also chairman of the TUC, was speaking at the opening day of the union's conference in Bournemouth.
Whenever we have seen Mrs Thatcher, she has always told us at the end of the discourse that she and her government had a mandate to do what they have done to Britain. I ask the government one question after Thursday: where is your mandate now?
Three youths thought to be members of the Basque separatist organisation ETA have been killed by the police near Almeria. This means that 10 men have died through political violence in Spain this week. ETA killed a general and 2 soldiers in Madrid, and the left-wing Grapo killed 2 soldiers and 2 policemen in Madrid and Barcelona. President Reagan's special envoy, Philip Habib, has begun the crucial second round of his talks to avoid war between Israel and Syria over Lebanon. He met President Assad and the Syrian Foreign Minister Abdel Hakim Khaddam. The talks were held as tension rose over reports of the massing of Israeli forces on the Lebanese border. More than 2,000 have attended a London ceremony to mark the 38th anniversary of the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto. Among them was Simon Wiesenthal, the best-known hunter of Nazi war criminals. He warned British Jews of a resurgence of pro-Nazi feeling. Tony Skase reports.
At the age of 72, Simon Wiesenthal is still hunting Nazi war criminals and others involved in the deaths of 11 million people. In 30 years, Mr. Wiesenthal, who himself survived extermination camps, has tracked down more than 1,100 war criminals from his headquarters in Vienna. He told British Jews after left-wing growth in the 70s, now it was the turn of right-wing extremists. How was he waging an anti-Nazi campaign?
60% of the world's population is born after the war. They have no personal experience with Nazism. We need to tell them what is Nazism. Anti-Semitism is only a part of Nazism. We saw, first of all, the Jews pay the bill, and later the other nations.
And now back to the French presidential election. In the last hour, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing conceded defeat. The winner is the socialist François Mitterrand. We've just received this report from Michael Burke.
The socialists in France are celebrating more than today's election victory. Though half the country's population is politically inclined to the left, they've consistently failed to win even a share of power since the 1950s. In their frustration, many felt they never would. In the end, it was probably the election Giscard lost rather than Mitterrand won. The former president's unpopular style and economic policy were the issues, and Mitterrand had only to reassure the uncommitted centre of French opinion that he was no revolutionary to win. 7 years is a long time to be leader of a country. With a result as narrow as this one, it might well have been decided by those who simply felt like a change. Michael Burke, BBC, Paris.
In our next news at 9:20 on BBC1, we'll have a fuller report from Michael Burke in Paris, as well as a profile on the new president of France. The French Open Golf Championship has been won by Britain's Sandy Lyle. He finished 4 strokes ahead of Bernhard Langer of West Germany. Rain washed out most of today's cricket. In the matches that were completed, there were wins for Derbyshire, Essex and Worcestershire. The Irish Rugby Union tourists have flown from Heathrow for their controversial tour of South Africa. The players met in London to avoid possible demonstrations in Dublin. The Irish Prime Minister and opposition have criticised the tour. The team will play 2 tests and matches against black and mixed-race opponents, but they'll immediately meet a rugby controversy about the refusal of many Afrikaans schoolboys to play in a school side with 2 black players in it. At home, it's been a trying day for soccer fans who want to see Thursday's FA Cup final replay between Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City. Hundreds of supporters turned up at City's ground, only to find that tickets won't go on sale until tomorrow. Spurs sold their allocation in just 2 hours, and there were huge queues at Wembley where more tickets were snapped up, as Bill Hamilton reports.
When a cup final ticket is at stake, it seems there's no end to what some supporters are willing to endure. Many of these fans joined the Wembley queue from the moment yesterday's match ended, a full 16 hours before the replay tickets went on sale. Cold and hungry, they had the additional discomfort of having to withstand several heavy showers. The nearer they got to the entrance, the greater the test of their patience, which made life a little tricky for the police. But most agreed it had all been worthwhile.
I came all the way from New Zealand to see the first finals. Missed out on the tickets there. I was very happy when they had on the telly last night there was a rerun and I could get a ticket here. I got in early enough last night.
Move backwards! Slowly move backwards, not forwards.
By mid-morning, there were queues over half a mile long. Some Manchester City fans had travelled south for the second day running, and of course will be back again for the replay on Thursday night. The others will face a similar endurance test when tickets go on sale at Main Road tomorrow. But not this man. He's now resigned to watching it all on television.
And that's the news as we have it for you this evening on BBC2.
And the weather forecast. Tomorrow, many northern areas will start dry with some sunny intervals, but scattered thundery showers will develop during the afternoon. For southern areas, it will be rather cloudy with just a few bright intervals and further outbreaks of thundery rain. It will be rather warm and muggy again, with coastal fog in the east. BBC2 now presents a film profile of the American composer Roy Harris, who died in 1979, and whose work, largely unfamiliar in Europe, is now enjoying a revival of interest in the United States.
Wins always this melody. Lighter, lighter, lighter. It's not the rite of spring. American music. Light, light, dancing. At the 4-2. Don't hold back.
In a few moments, Tales from a Long Room, the story of the only German ever to play first-class county cricket. First, here's Arthur Negus.
Over the last 50 years, I've really had a remarkable time visiting nice houses, seeing many nice things, meeting a lot of people, and I hope making a great number of friends. Some of those friends I'm going to introduce to you during a new series of programs. People like Rodney Bewes, Leslie Crowther, Hermione Waterfield, and you'll be seeing all sorts of things. Fine miniatures, naturally some fine bits of furniture. One thing that might well surprise you, a house full of furniture made, which is no older than I am, virtually what we call modern furniture, but rather special. Clockwork toys, breathing dolls, snooker with Ray Reardon. Oh, it'll be a good series.
And the first programme in the new series, Arthur Negus Enjoys, starts tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock here on 2. Now Robin Bailey tells the first of his 2 tales from a long room, The Incident at Frome. Well, Robin Bailey's Magic Lantern Slide lectures end with an account of the MCC's first and only tour of the Belgian Congo. Tales from a long room on Thursday week. Back to tonight. On BBC1 shortly, Esther Ranson and the That's Life team. BBC2 continues with the second programme of the three-part film biography of the Israeli military leader Moshe Dayan.
I don't know anything which is more exciting than war. Not that I recommend to make war just to get excitement, but really, when you think about life, or when I think about life, what could be more exciting? The best of the film, movie, you get excited by a movie with something on the screen, but if it's happening with you, nothing is more exciting than that. But it is not for the excitement. If you really want to make the right decision, you have to know what's going on in the front. And not just to live on the report that somebody tells you that we can't do it or that we can do it. In order to see the war, you have to be more or less in the front line.
The years of violence in Palestine between the two world wars locked